Alright folks, I thought I'd give you a quick update. Not that much to say really, but it's been a couple of weeks, hasn't it? So how have I done since the last performance update? So the last one was on the 17th of April, and I'm up 5.66% since the 17th of April, and Life Strategy 100 slightly higher. But obviously, since equities are going up, obviously the 80 and the 60 Life Strategy Fund are underperforming. And I'm still beating it from the 6th of October and heavily losing from 2017. Right, so the dividends I've got paid since then is 551 quid. So that's over just slightly over 2 weeks, isn't it? 551 quid. And oh yes, I mean I've already told you about that in the previous video. On the 22nd, I sold HFL and bought F&C Investment Trust. No need to go into that since there's a whole video on it. We've had our yearly rise in the Murray International dividend. So if we have a quick look here, so the first three are normally the same, and then the fourth one is bigger. So it's gone up from 2.6 to 2.5. Goes 21656 projected for Murray International, and so the increase is so £41 extra a year has been caused by that increase, because obviously it's 3 times that extra 1/10 of a pence. But yeah, you know, these little increases, they just add up gradually throughout the year. Right, oh yeah, and then just the usual Fundsmith update. Beginning of every month, he tells us what's happened. So as we can see here, this month he's added, well, this has happened over the past few months. He's been adding these positions of Intuit and Zoetis. I looked it up, and Zoetis is a animal drug company of some sort. And Intuit he's owned before. That's a accounting software similar to Sage in the UK. That's the equivalent. Intuit's another one that Joseph Carlson owns as well. But this is the one that Fundsmith actually went out of because they were annoyed with the way they were doing their accounting, because they weren't including the employee stock-based compensation wasn't being accounted for in their reports. And he was annoyed about it. He used that as the reason for selling, but he seems like he's come back into it. into it. What a pun. Yeah, so all I did was, you might remember that in my Fundsmith holding, last time they sold something, I just put it into VUSA, S&P 500 tracker, as like a placeholder. So now I've sold the VUSA, and I've put it into those two. I also sold a bit of IDEX just to do a bit of rebalancing, and I needed a little bit extra to make it 1% each, because if we see here on here, he calls it a small holding. So they began creating small holdings. I've noticed this happening a lot recently. My theory is that when he's having outflows of cash, it's a lot harder to build up a new position, because when you have inflows, you can put 100% of the inflowing money into your new position, and that builds up the new position a lot quicker than simply not selling on outflow days, because all you can do on an outflow day is sell everything else and keep your new position if you've got a tiny new position, and that's all you can do on outflow days. So I think when he has outflows gradually happening mostly, which has been happening recently, it's harder for him to build up a new position without wasting money on paying the frictional costs of selling another holding and buying the new one. I think I've never heard him say this, but I think generally what he does is he uses the flows to change the portfolio gradually over time. And that's why his costs that are kind of outside of his fees are quite low compared to other funds. And I think part of that is because he only uses the flows to rebalance his portfolio or create new holdings. And obviously, like I say, when your flows are outwards, it's a lot harder to create a new position. That's my theory on it, because quite a lot of his new holdings recently, he's labelled as small holdings, which never used to be the case. So yeah, anyway, that's just my theory. Not really important. Yeah, so because he's called it small, I've just put it as 1% for now. And then like every like quarter, I think you get a 13F thing, which tells you about the US holdings. It tells you how big they are. I mean, it's not completely accurate because it excludes the global ones or the non-US holdings. but it gives me some idea. I can kind of see how it compares to his Alphabet holding or his, all of the other holdings that are in the US. I can compare those percentages and kind of calibrate my holding in these two companies based on that slightly better than my guess at 1%, because small could mean anything, couldn't it? So yeah, there they are. Zoetis and Intuit, 1% each, or slightly below, right? But I've noticed CrowdStrike has pierced the £1,000 barrier. So that's quickly becoming one of my biggest holdings. Been looking for a replacement for this, and because I'm going to Asia next, they have like 7 kilogram limits on carry-on luggage. So I've got to be very careful with the weight. I've got some dodgy looks as I go around weighing all the bags in the shops. Oh yeah, and then yesterday evening, SCHD, it was at kind of £1,000 because of the drop in the markets recently. It's down to, like, as you can see there, 900 quid. It was time to either sell it or to make it a decent position, because it was just me kind of experimenting, and at 900 quid it was still kind of experimental, not really worth holding. So I decided last night, I just decided to sell it and put the money into Pfizer and UPS equally, because they're much higher yielders as well. I might carry on. I might create the pie again at some point if I'm ready to put a decent amount of money into it. It's just that having that 900 quid there was such a small amount of money compared to the effort it took to kind of run it in trading 2-on-2 and kind of track the dividends that are coming in all the time. Oh yes, we just had an RNS from Hint telling us that the switch to JGGI should be happening on the 29th of May. So yeah, not long now. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to transfer it to trading 2-on-2 and create some sort of pie that might have like 4 ETFs in it or something. I think I'm going to do just like a total return situation where I just take income from it by selling units of accumulation ETFs. So there'll be no actual dividends being paid from the holdings within it. I'll just hold these accumulation funds, some of which will be, I'm thinking, similar to the plan I mentioned when I first did a video on this. I'm thinking like maybe 10% bonds, just so there's something in there that will zig when the other things zag. Now, they'll only zig when the other things zag if interest rates come down. So it's only like proper economic trouble, like recessions where interest rates get put down to boost the economy. It's only those situations where it would help. But it just kind of ballasts the portfolio, and maybe have some in that high yield fund that doesn't really yield high enough for me. So maybe something in VHYG. I'd quite like to hold this one, just hold that one on its own, to be honest. But it only yields about 3%, and there's no smoothness to the distributions. So I figure instead of holding it for the actual dividend that gets paid, I figure I'd rather just hold it for the diversity it gives to that. If I make a little pie like I'm talking about, it gives some diversity to the equity part of the pie. So I could have like a world tracker, high dividend yield tracker like this one, 10% bonds, I don't know, maybe even a covered call ETF, who knows, something like that. Maybe I'll get that just for the sake of experimenting, really, just to see what they're like to hold. Yeah, a bit annoying because you can't get an accumulation version of those, I don't think. But then within the pie, you can set up the pie just to reinvest those dividends automatically. So yeah, it's not a big deal. This is why I would transfer it to trading 2-on-2. And then yeah, just create an income from a little pie that, well, I say a little pie, it will end up having about 30 grand in it, won't it? That's what I'm thinking at the moment, But my, I think about it differently every week. So, who knows what I'll end up doing. I suppose I haven't done the performance attribution, have I? Here's how each individual holding has done over the time frame. We can see the numbers there. Oh, Biotech Growth has done pretty well. Scottish Mortgage, Fundsmith. Yeah, not really any other outliers, is there? And the Fundsmith portfolio itself has had some good rises, especially Meta and Microsoft. Past couple of days, Meta and Microsoft have done amazing. And yeah, it seems like CrowdStrike is really on the run. Novo Nordisk, a bit of a comeback after a really bad time. It must have been cut in half over the past year or so. Booking Holdings is doing well. Anyway, there's the information. And I will see you next time, I guess. Let me know if there's any requests for something for me to cover, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.